Hey up! Right, the Bobber build starts here today in just a moment. But first of all, I would like to shout out a big thank you to Jeff at Jeff Buys Cars. But most of all, to you lot for lending your support. Wednesday's video didn't get huge views. I didn't expect it to. That's why I passed the baton on to other channels. And that's an unfortunate consequence of the demographics of this channel. Now, yesterday I was inundated with emails and messages showing me photographs of turning worms that you guys had already put on your vehicles. Thank you so much for getting on this so quickly. And I'd also like to say thank you for all those designers that, you know, came up with what they considered to be a better design for the stickers and offered them to me for use. Now, I really do appreciate it. There were also a few people in the comments section that criticised the design. I'd like to just point out it's the iconography of the design that is important, not its realism. It was designed specifically for people to easily replicate it and to provoke thought. Now, having said that, Jeff at Jeff Buys Cars has put up a link to some, the same design basically, for you to download if you don't want to make the stickers yourself. I think he's also going to be looking at producing some stickers that you can buy. And I will include these same links to the design if you want to download it through my channel, both on this video and on Wednesday's videos. Again, thank you for your support. Right, let's get on, shall we? Now, this Bobber Black customization is going to be a long-term series, and of course it's in conjunction with Motone Customs. Myself and Sam at Motone haven't decided on, the colour scheme to go with yet. I showed you some examples at the beginning. We've not quite come to a conclusion as yet, but we are on with that. And what I thought I would start off with is the PICO custom indicators. Now, I didn't feel too enthusiastic about these PICO indicators when I first saw pictures of them, but when you get them in your hand, it quickly becomes clear that these are a street-legal miniature marvel of metal and electronic engineering that exude quality. Now, I haven't undertaken a project like this Bobber customization project for quite some time, and I thought I would ease myself in gently with a nice, easy, fitting job of a pair of indicators to the front end. But of course, this is a triumph, and things are never that simple. The design of the Bobber dictated that it needed a smaller headlamp with a Bates-type bracket. And whereas normally we'd find the connectors for the indicators inside the headlamp bowl, it's clear that there simply wasn't space on the Bobber Black, so they put them under the tank, which complicates things a little bit. But worry not, Uncle Stu, after throwing one or two tantrums and a lot of swearing, has worked out how to do it, and I'm going to show you how to do it as quickly as I can right now. Now, these PICO indicators are a universal fit. They're designed to, accommodate any custom application on just about any motorcycle. But if you want a smooth integration onto any of the Triumph Bonneville models, there are a couple of other components that will help to make it a professional-looking plug-and-play procedure. And I'll leave the links for everything required in the video description down below. Now, first of all, you'll need the PICO indicator set, which of course come in pairs, and you'll also need the Triumph specific mount, which luckily also come in pairs. Now, on top of that, Motone do a plug and play wiring tail designed to match up the standard bullet connectors that come with the PICO with the Triumph specific bullet connectors. These two additional components are not essential, but it does help create a much more integrated, professional looking conversion. And the conversion tails obviously are a big help if you don't want to start chopping into your existing wiring and putting standard bullet connectors on. And of course, this 3-component setup will, work with any of the Triumph Bonneville models as far as I'm aware. Now, you don't have to carry out this procedure in exactly the same order that I'm going to show you here. My main concern at the beginning was that it was a sort of a magical mystery tour. I didn't know where the connectors were, and my priority was to sort of find them initially. But hopefully this video will give you enough information so that you can do it in any order you want. Right, so I traced the wiring from the indicators which disappeared under the front end of the tank. It became obvious the first thing you need to do is get this cable tidy off, because it's going to stop you from doing anything. Then you need to get to work unfastening the tank mounts. Now, you don't actually need to completely remove the tank, so there's no need to mess around with connectors or anything, but you do need to move it back a few inches in order to get access to the mess of wires underneath. The tank's held on at the back by two 12mm bolts. Just unfasten them, and then using some cloths or some sort of padding to protect the bottom edge of your tank, move it back and rest it in a secure position so you've got access to the area that the wires disappear into underneath the span of the tank. If you've got the tank far enough back, looking at the front left hand side just in front of the tank, you'll see that there's a plastic trunking system that holds several thick cables in place. These are in your way and they need to be moved, so just unclip the first two clips on that trunking, gently pull those cables up and, tuck them up out of the way as you see me doing here. And that allows you to get your eyes on the rat's nest of wiring underneath. Now, during the era that this bike was built, Triumph had quite a few recalls because of dangerous wiring, and it's easy to see why. These wires are quite literally, unceremoniously rammed into an aperture underneath the frame. There's no rhyme or reason or procedure for getting these out. You just have to trace the wires and then gently unpick and tease the desired connectors out. You might find in doing so, as I did, that one or two of the connectors might become disconnected. Don't panic, just be patient. You'll find what you need to find eventually. Just take it easy until you've got those connectors, exposed and ready for the next part of the job. And of course, the next stage is to swap those big ugly OEM indicators with your nice new PICOs. The indicator stem is held in place by a plastic collar which is fixed with one Allen screw. This is a very flexible, soft plastic collar which can easily just be sort of pulled over the fork stanchion. Now, as you'll see here, once you've got it off, there is a hole located in the back of that collar which gives you access with the same Allen key to the actual fastener that holds the stem onto the collar. Unfasten that and detach the OEM indicator. You can then gently remove the entire indicator and wiring from the bike. Obviously, it should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. Trace the wire from the indicator that you're working on to the actual connectors so that you don't get your indicators crossed. Because it's really embarrassing when you try to signal left and the bike indicates right. Just swap the indicators over one at a time so that you don't get mixed up. It's easily done. Now, if you're using the Motone Triumph conversion mounts, ADT002, now is the time to open the box and get them ready. They come with two stainless steel bolts and two stainless steel locking nuts. Now, unless you've got some really trick tools that I don't have, you'll find that you can't get a socket or an open-ended spanner into the back to get it onto the locking nut to secure it in place while you tighten up the bolt. So here's what I came up with, and I'll have to show you it on the other indicator here because the first attempt at filming wasn't very clear. I used a stubby screwdriver, but I think really you could probably get away with any length of screwdriver. You just need a reasonably broad flat-bladed screwdriver and just wedge it between the edge of the collar and the flat of the actual nut itself. This holds it securely in place so you can actually get a grip on that nut and tighten the bolt up. Now, as you can see here, I do actually already have the PICO indicator threaded onto the mount. There's no need for that to be in place when you fit the mount. In fact, it probably makes it a little bit more difficult, but you've got to appreciate I don't get any instructions with these kits. And Sam at Motone always thinks it's funny if he goes quiet and doesn't answer my messages when I'm making these videos. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. Now, when you receive your PICO kit, it will come with a nut and a washer and a sort of rubber weather protection seal. You won't be using them on this installation with the Triumph adapter mount. So take them off and then simply thread the actual PICO indicator through the mount and into the collar. The PICO itself is actually secured in place using a tiny grub screw, which I'll show you in a moment, which is pre-installed on the Triumph adapter mount. But really, you need it all fitted to the bike to be able to line it up properly. Now, on the inside of that collar there is a little sort of cable groove designed to hold the cable in place with a little hole at the back to let the cable out so you can connect it to your bike. Suitably arrange the cable and then fit the collar back onto the bike. You can then go ahead and secure it with the original OEM Allen screw. Just take a little bit of time to make sure that the actual collar itself is lined up correctly, otherwise you're going to have to go back, loosen it off and readjust it. Then carefully route your cable and attach your plug and play converter wiring from Motone, ready to connect it up to the bike. This is quite simple and straightforward. It's red to red and black to black. You can then go ahead and plug in the other end of your converter, which is black to black and red to green, which should, all being well, leave you with a fully functioning PICO indicator. Now, these connectors have sort of little spares inside, so they do have to be lined up. I don't know why Triumph do that, but that's what they've done. Hence the requirement for the converter. Now, that little grub screw that I mentioned is located at the rear of the Triumph adapter mount, in the aperture where the main fastening bolt's located. It's just a matter of holding the PICO at the desired angle and then gently tightening it up. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on, and it holds it very securely. It's a very well thought out piece of kit. Obviously, the procedure for fitting both indicators is more or less the same. The only thing that you do have to be wary of is the way that the cables are routed. What I would suggest you do, if you've got a bad memory, is just take a couple of photographs with your phone before you start, so you know exactly which way the cables should lay. You don't want them getting snagged up in your steering or anything silly like that while you're riding the bike. And then, of course, all you have to do after testing it to make sure everything's working correctly is put your bike back together. Now, in true Triumph technician fashion, all you can really do with these cables is stuff them back up where they were before. I don't know of any other way to put it, to be honest. After doing so, check your steering to make sure that it operates correctly and it's not pulling or tugging on any of the wires. If you're satisfied everything is going okay, you can then replace those heavy cables back into the conduit and snap the conduit fasteners back in place. And then again, check your steering to make sure that you've not sort of misplaced anything. As you see here, I forgot a wire, but I did remember to do it in the end. You can then go ahead and replace your cable tidy. There are some wires, I think one's for the ABS that tucks into a little clip at the bottom of it once you've fastened it in place. And then when you've done that, again, check your steering just to make sure that nothing's sort of tightened up and, you know, is going to cause problems later on. Make sure that everything moves freely and that it's not pulling unduly on any of those cables. You can then pop your tank back on, fasten it back in place, and you're ready to rock and roll. Now, with this video at your disposal, presuming that you've maybe watched it a couple of times beforehand, I think you could probably fit these in half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. It's actually not a difficult job. It's only difficult when, you know, you're coming on it totally cold, not knowing really where anything is. So there you have it, the very first instalment of the Triumph Bonneville Bobber Black Customs series. Now, I've got to say, and I'm sure a lot would agree with me, the original OEM Triumph indicators were exactly what our ancestors were imagining when they invented the word ugly. The original bobbers of the 1940s and 50s, of course, probably wouldn't have had indicators, so to me it makes sense to have something small, unobtrusive, but on a close inspection, high quality and very stylish. Now, for the rear of the bike, when we get onto it, we're going to be using the PICO 3-in-1, which are not just indicators, they also act as tail and brake lights. I'm looking forward to seeing those in action. I'm going to be looking, I think, at getting probably one of these videos, or at least one of these videos, published a month. We'll see how it goes. I'll make sure that I get at least one a month out, but these are very time-consuming videos to film. As usual, I will leave links for these three components in the video description down below to Motone's website. I'll also leave the 12% discount code, which will entitle viewers of this channel to a 12% discount for anything on Motone Customs' official UK website. So, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to, watch this video, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you do subscribe, yes, hit the notification bell and ensure that your notifications are enabled so that I stand a chance of YouTube letting you know every time I upload a new video. I am going to be back on Friday, so until then, please, ride safely, and I'll see you soon.